Standing by. And welcome to Images. I'm Prester Pickett, your host for this broadcast of Images. We are in a conversation with Maurice Marbury in a discussion about a purpose for transformation. Maurice, welcome to Images.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
This conversation will allow us to discuss the process of reentry from a period of incarceration, as well as the discussions of how valuable individuals can be to our community when they redirect their lives and, as you described, are transformed. So, with that, let's start our audience off with an announcement of the challenges that probably redirected your life in a negative way, and then eventually we'll talk about what you did and what was done to redirect you, transform you in your own words.
Okay. What do you want me to begin?
So let's talk about the high school. A high school experience, I'm understanding, eventually advanced you to Lincoln West High School, and then eventually you ended up with a period where you were taken from us, and hence there was the need to reintroduce you to the community. So let's talk about that.
Well, that actually happened before
Okay,
high school.
let's
Even
talk about
before
that.
junior high. I actually started in elementary and at home.
Okay, let's talk
That was
about
the transformation.
what caused the challenges that you would say possibly led to some of the wrong decisions that you made at one time in your life.
Well, a lot of people that see me think they always saw me smiling and things of that nature, but had no idea that I was being abused.
Okay.
Mentally, nothing sexually, but mentally, emotionally, physically, and even spiritually. So, I'm acting out when a boy who doesn't know how to communicate, who doesn't know how to talk, I was actually told how to think and how to feel. What you think about this? I think, no, you don't. You think. How do you feel about this? I feel, no, you don't. You feel. So it stifled me. So on top of the abuses that I was going through, I acted out. Most men, when we're taught big boys don't cry, we don't. We shun any and everything that we feel is sensitive or feminine. So I didn't talk, and we acted bad. When you like that girl, what did you do? You pulled her ponytail. You hit her. You told her you was gonna beat her up after school. So these are the things that I did, and instead of being questioned as to why I was doing what I was doing, I was dictated as that bad kid.
You also described to me in some of our earlier conversation before we went on air about a bullying factor, this discussion that our community is paying more attention to now because of an awareness of what bullying does to the individual who is bullied. Can you explain the bullying in your life and what that may have done to you to possibly challenge you later in life with some decisions?
Again, the situation is like when I talk about at home. So I'm the youngest of six actually, but my the community, street, and community saw how my brothers and sisters treated me. So again, when you coming up, I'm not the only one being taught that big boys don't cry. We all are. So back then, when you liked this girl, you said, "Do you want that person beat up? You want them?" And you bully people, you push people. I don't know what was going on at their homes, but this is what we do. We as men act out with our manliness or our boyness with aggression. So I was one who was they people put their aggression on me, and they knowing that I can't go home and get anybody, so I was always the one to be picked.
Mm-hmm.
So, and eventually, with what was going on at home, I had to survive in my house. Then I had to survive in the streets. So, what I did was, as a period, I could always fight and things of that nature, but I didn't like to. I was really the kindest kid that you could ever want to meet. But I actually, and eventually, as in psychology, the transference is called, even if you don't like a thing that is happening to you, you can abnormally become that thing. So I turned out to be, oh, you're not gonna hit me no more. Nobody, from home to the streets. You put your hands on me, this is what I'm doing. So I actually became the bully, but I didn't bully people. I bullied bullies, but it was still a negative.
We'll have a chance to talk about some of your education, your self education, and the books that you read, things that put you on a path back towards education and appreciation for education with that, we would like to have you reflect on some of the lessons you've learned through psychology. In looking back over your life now with your understanding of psychology, what could have been done in your life that could have possibly changed the outcome, that could have redirected you past the situation that led to your incarceration?
The consistency of actually asking a question for the cause. We often, most of the time, 98% of the time, what we do is we react to the response. We react to the reaction, but we never actually question the cause. So I'm this bad kid right now. I do it as an outreach worker in my situation and just in society as a community activist. When I see a kid doing something, I sit that kid down and I communicate with him or her. And what's the matter? Why you do this? And then that goes back to a situation that created them to do what they did. You really just don't come out and do something bad, really abnormal. So it's what's going on? A lot of the time something is not right at home. Something is being done at home or something is missing at home. So this is where these behaviors come from. So I was asked twice by a principal in Lewis Pastor and by a teacher in Stephen E. Howe twice. What's wrong with you, man? Why do you do what you do? And because I didn't know how to communicate, didn't know how to speak, I was stifled from speaking. I cried both times. But if they were consistent with me and asking me what was going on, more than likely I would have told.
So you're suggesting someone asking a question and giving an avenue for expression of what's going on in the life of that child could have possibly redirected the outcome.
Right? I could have. What's really going on, man? What's happening at home? Listen, I got you. If anything is needed, come talk to me. When you have that alternative, when you have that outway, you may pay attention to that. And a lot of those, I wrote a book that's coming out, and the people who did that to me back then were the people that actually caused me to look and say, amongst all the negative that I've been through, these 6 people that did that positive thing to me actually allowed me to say and look at them over all the negative and change.
Now, we will have a chance to remind our listening audience, for those who may have had some type of prejudice in hearing of your background of being incarcerated and need to understand that an individual can be transformed, can have life-changing experiences to bring them back to our community to be very productive. You've already suggested that you're doing that as an outreach worker, working with our youth. There's also the investments that have been made with the work that you've done to develop your own business. Collective Minds, an LLC, is what we'll talk about when we return from these messages from Cleveland State University.
Thank you.
Already halfway through. So we'll quickly come back to those books. So, was there anything done then to change your mind, to say that you were going to participate in a process or become part of this process of transformation and developing a purpose? What made you develop a purpose? And what made you transform?
I remembered me. That loving little boy, I remembered him. And so despite all the negative that was going on in my life, it was still certain things that I would not do even though I was deep in the streets. Like the movies and stuff y'all watch and call raw and gangster, and the music that people listen to today that say the same term, and I lived that in real life. But I was still certain things that I would not do.
Okay, so the music also had an influence.
Yeah, it was.
We'll talk about that. And so,
but it was still always.
standing by. And welcome back to Images. I'm Prester Pickett, your host for this broadcast of Images, in a conversation with Maurice Marbury. Our discussion has been about a purpose for transformation, as he has described some of his experience in growing up, unfortunately being bullied, and unfortunately not having the intercessors impact his life to redirect some of the choices that he made later in life that led to a period of incarceration. With the conversation continuing, Maurice, we want to talk about when you did develop an understanding of a purpose, when you did start your process for transformation. Please explain.
I was actually incarcerated. I mean, I always remembered me as a kid being this nice guy. So even though I was like deep in the streets, like I was explaining, like the movies that people listen to or watched, and the music that people listen to, they call gangster and thorough. I lived that life, like in reality.
Did you emulate that behavior? Did that set a pattern for you to
Yeah,
look at, or was it just something that you watched and you knew the difference between the reality of what was being experienced in life and what was being projected on the screens and in the music?
and my lifestyle, that was reality. That was real. So like a lot of the movies people watch and a lot of music that they listen to, that's really happening. That's
Do you feel it encouraged the behavior or
Yes, it will
supported?
encourage. Yes, it will encourage. Yes, it will encourage you to do what you do because, as we'll talk later, possibly the propaganda and the things that you continuously see through the process of psychology, whatever you see never leaves your mind. So when a situation presents itself, you can do something that you saw, something that you heard, things of that nature. And coming up, and like they call it, quote unquote, the hood is the thing to be gangster. The thing is to be thorough. The thing is to be, and that's what I became. I was the reality of what they saw in the movies.
So again, something changed that. Can you talk about what changed that for you?
I was talking earlier about there was 6 people that did something good to me in my life,
Mm-hmm.
and even though I was deep in the streets, it was things that I would not do because I remembered the kind boy that I was. I knew what love was, and I knew that a lot of situations and things that I was doing, it's not love. This is not what you wanted. You have became what you hated, so you have to change. So I got into a situation when I was incarcerated. Tomorrow, I'm getting ready to go do something because somebody bruised my ego, did something to me that I could not take. Tomorrow, I'm getting ready to go handle this, and this is going to be the rest of my life. And I talked to an older guy that told me, "You're responsible for what you do." He gave me a long talk about it. And I remember them 6 people that did that good and said, I need to become one of them. And if I can say this or not, I prayed to God. I said, if you give me a way out of this tomorrow, I won't do it. And I'm going to redirect my life. And that next day, they came to me and corrected the wrong that they did. So from that point on, I began to say, I was always a reader, always in school, student council vice president, student council president, but I went to the streets.
And no one would have ever detected that your path would have went in the path that it went, or would someone have recognized there's something going on, and if someone does not intercede, he is going to experience what you experienced or close to it.
I think some people did see it, and some people was like, okay, I have my own children. I have my own life to deal with. Somebody else needs to do something. But what they did was planted a seed in me that never left. So when I made that decision that night to say, if you give me a way out, God, this is what I'm going to do, I reflected upon those 6 people. When I said, I began to change. I began to say, I'm going to do something else.
Now, too, you came to the Black Studies program, the Howard A. Mims African American Cultural Center, which has a history of visual arts displays. Displays where we have reflected shows entitled Black Art from Prison, shared works from the women at the Northeast Pre-Release, shared works from individuals at Grafton Correctional Institution. And one time we put up a show and there was a young man looking at a piece, and he stood in an area reflecting on a particular work of art because his father had painted this piece, and he was so thrilled to see his father participate in a process that would lead him to productive activity. When did you start producing positive things for the community? If it's not retribution, When did you recognize that you were a contributor to our society in a positive way? And what type of measurements do we have to say that this is when we can see there was a difference and you could physically detect that there were positive things that you were doing to contribute to our society?
Even still, then when I was incarcerated and that change that I made, I began to say, people look at me in a certain way. I've seen younger guys come to prison and see me and say, man, and they like the things that they did and thought that I approved of it. And instead of catching the ego and saying, yeah, I'm the man, it bothered me that somebody younger than me watched me do negative and thought it was cool. So I began to educate myself and change when I was incarcerated. And when I came home, I began to say, I'm never going to do that again. And if I led people in that direction, they will follow me if I do this because I'm like never going back there. This is not the place to be. So I came home and I started communicating with the guys who was out, and they was asking me if I was going to get back into the streets. And we know you getting ready to do this and you getting ready to do that. And I said, man, no. If you listen to me then, and you watch what I did then and you want to do it, man, watch this.
And we now have the history of when you did return to our community and that period of time that you left a facility that controlled your life, that told you when to eat, when to sleep, what to do, what limitations you had. You came to return, and that return was to Cleveland, Ohio.
Right.
How long ago was that?
That was 14 years ago. I came home October 12th, 2004.
So you actually have the memory of the day,
Yeah.
the date, and then now can reflect on the years of what you've done. And we've advanced now with the development of a business. So one of the measurements that we have is the production of your own business, which I'll ask you to describe to our listening audience at this point.
Collective Minds LLC is actually an organization that's built on cultural awareness, education, economic development, and empowerment. Uh, like myself, I thought about me and remembered me, and I thought about the value of me. So, in any form of cultural awareness, education, economic development is education. Everything that you need to do in life is education. And when you educate yourself first on you, you begin to learn and up the value of self. And when you have the value of self, you begin to make better decisions. So this is actually a thought process that we need to change first. That alternative that we need to do as children. When you, that parent, you see that child doing something wrong and you need that consistency in asking them, why? Why are you doing this? Why is this? And then you implement the value of self. You begin to better understand yourself and you begin to make better decisions. So that's what Collective Minds LLC is about.
With the conversation we had in the Howard Mims Cultural Center, I asked you if you could see this level of Black consciousness and awareness of Black studies possibly being a deterrent to criminal activity. Can you explain your response to that?
Again, just like I just said, when you begin to understand the value of you, you begin to make better decisions. When you start understanding, like, let's take college, for instance. College is, you can come to college for 5, 15, 20, for simple classes, but very, very positive classes, classes that can actually affect you in a better light. When you think about that, as opposed to, like you said, being in prison, being told what to do, how to think, how to eat, when you can even use the bathroom, which is something natural, but somebody else is gaining $42,000 a year for you, I think you should redirect your thinking.
With some of this awareness, this cultural awareness, came by your attention to certain books and certain authors. Authors for us to consider in the college curriculum or on special reading lists, particularly if these are books that helps individuals re-enter our community and to reduce the rate of recidivism, returning back to a life of crime. And we're looking forward to your book being published. As you have announced, you have a book coming out to add to the list for us to consider. We have stories of individuals like Fred Ward, who has been one of our speakers before here at Cleveland State University, looking for that contribution. But there are these other books that we can know these were significant in your life in encouraging your transformation. Can you talk about some of those books and the authors?
Uh, well, you have one when you become a part of Collective Minds LLC. One of the fundamental books to get is part of the curriculum is Brainwash by Tom Burrell. And what it does, it talks about why we are where we are as a people from before slavery, through the Jim Crow era to now. And after each chapter is actually the process of how to reverse every process that we have gone through to where we are. So that's you need to be understand first that there is an issue. A lot of us don't because the abnormal can become the normal. So that's a curriculum on that.
And Dr. Michelle Alexander has also authored a book entitled The New Jim Crow. So there are complementary readings to the works that you're going to recommend to us at this time. So Tom Burrell's Brainwashed. Right. There's also
you have Robert Kimbrough's The Wealth Choice.
That's Dennis Kimbrough?
Dennis Kimbrough.
Dennis
Kimbrough is okay. The Wealth Choice. In a lot of our situations, we talk about how finances are a problem. You know, they won't give me. The government won't give me. The system won't give me. Well, guess what? It is your choice to be where you are, again, through the process of education. Learn what it is that you want. Understand what it is that you like, and then make the choice to become that, either in a business or a co-partner in a business. It's a way to make money from it. But to be where you are in life is actually a decision that you make after you change your thought process.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the author?
Robert Kiyosaki. And it talks about how there's a difference between the rich dad and the poor dad, and how this guy grew up and how he saw things that other people had, how he wanted to be that. And again, what he did was change his thought process, apply what he changed his mind to, and now he has become that. Now he's a multi-billionaire, and people go to him to listen to him speak about how to make those transformations.
And other individuals like Claude Brown wrote Man-Child in the Promised Land. These are works that allow an individual to reflect on their own personal experience. In addition to that, a Sidney Poitier work entitled
The Measure of a Man.
And how did that impact your life, and what message came out of that from Sidney Poitier?
Both of those books were given to me when I was young. Those 6 people gave me a book, said, you need to read this when I was incarcerated. I'm talking about as in detention home. You need to read this, and I read that. The nurse gave it to me. And Sidney Poitier, The Measure of a Man, is like, who are you? A lot of us deal with even though the Collective Minds LLC is a business for profit, the thing is, things surpass profit. Morals, principles, standards, honor, loyalty, integrity. When you think of Sidney Poitier, what do you think of? Rich, millionaire? Or do you see an elegant man every time you see any movie? That's what substantiates and supersedes what we have been groomed to look for. And that's what The Measure of a Man was talking about, how where he came up from nothing to where he is now because of his character.
Jerry L. Fletcher, Paradoxical Thinking.
That book made me hard to talk to people at a period of time because I began to see so many things within myself. You can look at things that are contradictions, and you will say, well, I'm not going to do that. One of the terminologies that we use in the neighborhood or among us as African Americans is keep it real, keep it 100. When you read this book, you will see that a lot of things that you're doing might not be real. They might not be 100, but at the same time, they may be from a different perspective. So we are all groomed to be in a box. This book teaches you how not just to step outside your box, but how not to have a box at all. We can look at a circle and say 360 degrees, meaning but rarely ever look at a square and say it's the same thing, perpendicular.
7 Spiritual Laws of Success.
That's by Deepak Chopra. It's one of the greatest books that I have ever read, and I read it 7 times, and every time I read it, I give it to somebody else to read. Seven Spiritual Laws of Success is not actually like from a religious perspective. It's that everything that we deal with is from a spiritual perspective, the highest form of energy, period. And back in the medieval times, you had a trade called alchemy. Alchemy is being able to trade base metals into the purest golds and diamonds and things of that nature. But this form of alchemy that he talks about in the 7 Spiritual Laws of Success is being able to change the base self into the purest form of self that you can be. It's regaining the value of self and boosting the self-esteem to make better decisions.
Why would these books also be significant to our college students here at Cleveland State University, our faculty and staff here, our community members who want to improve their lives, as well as their interests of what can impact someone who's part of this process of finding their purpose and transforming?
In studying psychology, one of the last books we read was Understanding Human Communication. The last chapter in the book talks about how when we see something, we'll say, oh, that's not fitting me. I don't do that. So we don't pay attention to it. That's the last chapter in the book. And it defines on how, guess what we should do? Read it anyway. Because it's going to teach you how not just to deal with this person right here, but the other 50,000 of them that you will meet. So these books right here will teach you, I guarantee, more things about self, the reader, and will give you a deeper, not just under, but overstanding of how to deal with other people. You will begin to see things in other people like, wow, okay, maybe this is that. And now you know how to deal with them. And instead of dealing with the reaction or the response, you begin to now question the cause.
There are a number of opportunities for you to continue to be engaged with us here at Cleveland State University for other individuals who have had a journey similar to yours and have had the interest of developing businesses and being a productive part of our community. How do you foresee yourself being involved with us with Black History Month coming up, leading into spring and minority health awareness? How could you, in closing, see yourself involved with us?
I would like to be a part. I came up here by mistake, but now I'm here and I see everything that's going on. I would like to be a part of this as much as possible. This is some of the places that at times I will have lunch and drink my coffee and open my machine and communicate with different people from different perspectives to everything that we can do here. I would like to be a part.
And with the College of Criminology, Sociology, Anthropology, with our social work department, with all of the departments that are interdisciplinary aspects of the Black Studies program, we look forward to them being engaged with conversations with you and other community members who are trying to make a positive difference in our community and wanting to understand what we can do, because those individuals who are incarcerated are not always incarcerated for life. They will be returning back to our community and hopefully even considering studying with us here at Cleveland State University. Thank you for joining us for Images, and thank you for tuning in to Images.
Thank you for having me.
You can allow me to get a photograph of you over there. Take a minute for this phone to turn back on. If you, okay, you already filled that out for me. You could put owner of your business or entrepreneur or business owner or whatever in the name of your business.
I like that.
Glad I brought the phone because I didn't bring the batteries for that. Yeah, so a lot of this conversation I want to return back to, because it was a major focus when we had faculty that was part of our operations that would go out to the prisons with me. Started dealing with some health issues and then parenting and my time, so I wasn't able, but this, again, like you said, your visit was not coincidental. 1, 2, and 3. So, particularly hearing about, and I should have asked this on air with you, so it gives another chance to invite you back again to continue the conversation. The young people who are involved with the criminal activities that's causing people their lives and changing lives. What would you say you would what remedy do we have? What should we be doing as a university to make an impact and a change now that you see there is a unit here at the university that can have the potential to do these things, what is your recommendation if we got it to the level of the attention of a dean or a vice president or even a new president who will come into the university?
You need to create alternatives. Remember when we was coming up, we had GYAA basketball, GYAA football, GYAA soccer, PAL 5. We had places that we can go after school to do homework. We had places after school that we can do multiple things. The YMCA's, where are they?
Don't they exist?
Where?
Aren't they still there?
No, man, come through the hood. I want to pick you up and drive you through the neighborhood. And I want you to see that they're gone. There's no alternatives. You see what I'm saying? There's no alternative to do anything. So what am I going to do? I'm going to do what I see in this video game. I must do because guess what? The video game was made through reality, and this is what we're supposed to be doing. I'm going to do what I hear the rapper talk about. I'm going to do what I see them do in the movie. No rules, no regulations, because there's no one to guide me and tell me what to do. They have no alternatives. So guess what happened if you create a situation here? I'm giving you one. You create a situation here to where you can get degrees or some type of program, certificates even, some type of form of registration that they can get through internship. If they are good in school, you introduce them to it. You let them see it. And then you tell them you can get this if you do good in school. Now they have an alternative.
Okay, that's on that end of this three-tier approach. Now, reaching up. That was reaching back and reaching down. Reaching up now, the individuals who have positions of prestige, the individuals who may have some economic, risk capital, the individuals who are members of elite organizations and groups that may distance from connecting with someone like you. What do we say and do to convince them to connect to the interests of someone that may have stimulated their minds towards their prejudice of someone who has a criminal background?
It may catch Collective Minds LLC as an organization that actually brings other organizations together. We don't want to be the head this and the head. See, we have a bunch of organizations that are doing the exact same thing. And what it does is it continues to create division because we want to be the best. Instead of saying, hey, well, we don't do this over here. Mr. Prisket, don't you, okay, I want to send somebody over. I don't have to get anything from it.
We didn't talk about your entertainment efforts, so.
Mm-hmm. We didn't.
Okay.
You see? So we didn't talk. We need to do that. We need to be. So guess what happens if I come to you with a business proposition? I really don't want to deal with this because of this. But my business proposition actually makes sense. And
again, I'm not hearing you open someone's mind up to say, we're wasting money. They did something wrong. You're going to continue to waste your money. You're at a higher risk for dealing with someone who has a criminal background. What do we say to them?
Who's at a higher risk? How are you at a higher risk?
That's not necessarily a reality, but that can be a perception, which can lead to a reality.
And again,
what do you say to them?
Again, the
because
reality
we can walk
is
and
this.
talk.
Here is a business proposition from this person that you feel has done this, and they are trying to change. Do they have a chance? Should they have a chance? Let me ask you a question. Why should they not?
Okay.
That forces you to go inside yourself and say, why am I denying this man, this woman, the ability to have a better life?
I hear you. It's just some voices that need to be lifted to the ears that will also need